Welcome to episode 66 of Your Ultimate Comeback. I'm Brad Davidson. I'm here with my co-host, Raquel Perry. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Very nice. And we are joined today by our guest, David Danon. Super excited to explore this. I almost wish we would record the conversations before we start. They're so good.
I know.
They're so good.
Right.
But Raquel, I'm going to let you introduce David because you're tight with him, and then we'll dive in.
Okay. David is a friend of mine and someone that I have taken many yoga classes with over the years. He's just the coolest dude, is all I can say. I mean, that's kind of a silly way to say it, but he's a really cool guy. You go to his class, and first of all, he was upset when the class length went from 90 minutes to, okay, it'll be 75. Okay. You know, he's not a big fan of the 1 hour yoga classes at all. And you get, for your Shavasana, David playing the guitar and singing, which is freaking epic. I love it. I love it. So he's just, I mean, he's such a unique character. He has written a book. Should we show the book? Yes. Yeah.
And it's titled Life, Yoga, and Cancer, Lessons from the Battlefield.
Right.
Excited to read this.
Yes. And he has worked in Hollywood. We were just talking about how he was just, the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood with Brad Pitt. He worked on that. You know, just also, he's just so multifaceted. That's one thing I love about him. And he's also snarky as hell, which is a big, important thing. I love that. I love that cynicism. I do. So welcome, David.
Well,
thank you for being here.
Yeah, the snarky thing, I told people, I'm not your nurturing mom, I'm your tough love dad.
Yeah, okay.
And that's just the way it is.
Right.
Everybody's got their way to present their trip to their students and their friends, and that's the way I roll.
Yeah, I love that you have a Muhammad Ali shirt on. I actually had that exact picture hanging over my desk for years. Yeah. Muhammad Ali was my dad's favorite fighter. So.
Oh, well, he was just a crazy, enigmatic individual all the way around. Yeah.
My dad was in the Navy and was in the streets of San Francisco, and all of a sudden this crowd of kids were running around, and my dad kind of walks up, and Muhammad Ali's back's to him, and Muhammad Ali turns around and is like, hey man, I don't want no problems. I just want your autograph.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a cool story.
Yeah, he loves to tell that story. Every time I see Muhammad Ali, it reminds me of my dad. I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I want to start this. You said something before we were talking.
Rolling?
Yeah, before we were rolling. That I really I love this. I want to dive into this a little bit with you because I really want to hear a deeper perspective from you. You were talking about a Buddhist kind of idea, philosophy around life is suffering and suffering comes from our attachments or something like that. I can't remember the exact thing that you said, but and then you kind of started talking about it a little bit.
Right.
And I think that is the greatest place to start, just to get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
But that was the thing in our pre-recording conversation. I was like, oh, I want to hear more about that.
Yeah, the precepts of Buddhism start off. These truths can be expanded into 1,000-page manuscripts, or they can be distilled down to the simplest things. And Buddha starts out, life is suffering, meaning life in the material manifestation is suffering. The source of suffering is attachment. And then he goes on the remedies that Buddhists use to get rid of that attachment. But attachments they run a lot deeper than, oh, I wish I had that car, I wish I had that house, or I wish that person was my boyfriend or girlfriend. They go to the depths of anticipation is an attachment. Expectation is an attachment. And if you really look at like your disappointments and you really trace it back to what it is, it can generally come down to an attachment. I had an expectation that this friend would do this for me and she didn't. I had an anticipation of this happening when I went to that party and it didn't. So those are attachments that are hidden under those aspects of anticipation or expectation.
Yeah. And it's a major source of stress, isn't it?
It is. It's a total source of stress. And yoga is the same thing. We need to define, right?
Sure, go for it.
To me, I had the conversation with Raquel. There are people that do yoga and there are yogis, and there's a difference. There's a big difference. You can be a yogi and never do sit in lotus or do a posture, and you can be an acrobat with yoga postures and not be a yogi. There are millions of people in India that practice yoga without ever getting into a posture. Yoga is a science of the soul. It's a scientific approach to a spiritual problem, which is suffering. So the ancient yogis set about to find what was what they could do to remedy this suffering. And they came to the conclusion that yoga means to yoke, or to yoke or unite. And you'll hear a lot of the teachers say, oh, we're going to, mind to body and body to soul and this,
And
that, and the
breath.
other. Yeah, breath to
yeah.
posture.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not what it is. The true aspect of the science of yoga is to yoke the individual soul with the collective spirit. Because the mind and the body are connected no matter what. You can't.
Right.
You don't want. They're the ones that are screwing the program up because they have their own agenda.
Right.
The body wants physical pleasure. The mind wants mental satisfaction and that type of stuff. And so they're constantly overpowering the soul's ability to know what's going on. Mm-hmm. So the yogis found that through meditation, devotion, karma, all that sort of stuff, you would connect the individual soul with the spirit. So it's like the soul is like a little wave in the ocean. The ocean can exist without the wave. They're made of the same thing. They're both made of water. The ocean can exist without the wave. The wave can't exist without the ocean. So imagine that little wave's enclosed in a bubble that it can't see out of. Their process is remove that bubble of, they call it delusion, and you can experience your oneness with spirit. And when that happens, you are no longer being under the influence of mind and body's pathetic little actions, desires and whatnot. So I mean,
that's pretty pathetic. When you think about it.
So that's kind of gnarly, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, there you go. So,
But David's a yogi.
yeah.
We talked about this. You walk the walk for sure.
Yeah, I was kind of meant to.
You think?
Oh, absolutely.
Why do you say that?
When I was a little kid,
100 years ago.
a long time ago. My brother and I were sitting at the breakfast table eating our scrambled eggs, getting ready to go to school. And my mom said, this is like 1954 or 5, I guess. She said, oh, there's this yogi, and he died, and his body didn't decay for 20 years or for 20 days, and all this stuff, right? And we're eating our scrambled eggs, but it stayed with me, right? So many years later, I pick up the book. Oh, and then also my mom, when we were about a little after that, I was probably 9, my brother's probably 8, she got into a book by Swami Shivananda and started doing yoga postures. Well, her interest span was not long. So she did that for a while, but my brother and I and our little friends would all do the postures. And we were good because we were kids.
Yeah.
Right? We were doing those headstands and everything. But anyway, so 20 years later or whatever, I pick up Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda. Mm-hmm. And I read the book. And I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And then at the end, there's this thing that says, a notarized letter by Harry T. Rowe of the Forest Lawn Mortuary saying that Paramahansa's body did not decay for 20 days, and it tells the whole story.
Wow.
This was the guy that my mom had told my brother and I about 20 years before that. And so that's kind of got me on that path. And SRF, Self-Realization Fellowship, has correspondence lessons. They're very inexpensive. They just cover the postage basically on how to live and meditation techniques and all that kind of stuff. So
Which we want to talk to you about.
Yes, we'll get into that. So I got into that back in the 74 or something like that. And then I started doing martial arts when I was 22 or 3 around the same time. I thought, that yoga stuff would be good for this because of the, the flexibility and all that. So I started to do that, and I picked up this book by Swami Vishnu Devananda. And this is not what you're going to see from an influencer on Instagram. The second page, he has a piece of string coming out of his mouth.
Yes, I've seen that stuff.
He's flossing.
Crazy.
Yeah, I mean, so that's what I'm saying. To get into yoga back in those days, you had to be willing to
You're kind of a
at,
fringe person.
You're a fringe person.
Yeah,
I
for
wouldn't
sure.
even tell my surfer buddies that I did yoga. I'd tell martial arts and you're kicking butt. That's great. But yoga, no freaking way. Mm-hmm. So and I get into that book and I found out that Vishnu Devananda is the direct disciple, or my generation, of Shivananda, whose book my mom was using.
Wow.
So all this stuff was so connected.
Yeah.
And so I was just doing my yoga, and I go into a hot yoga studio. I met this girl, and she was saying, "Oh yeah, I'm doing this yoga, and it's pretty cool." And I go, "Okay, I'll try it out." It was a
Always chasing the tail.
it was the Bikram Yoga Studio on 17th Street.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the day,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And so I went
With
in
the
there.
carpet on the floor.
Yes, exactly. And anyway, I went in there and I did the class, and I didn't really love it, but I liked the girl. Okay. And
See, I knew it.
no, it wasn't. We were friends.
Okay.
We were friends.
Okay.
And so I went back. It was like 2 weeks for $20 intro offer. And so about halfway through the second week, the owner says, "I need a teacher, and you can do it." There was no teacher trainings back then. It was just, and you can do it. What do you think? And I said, "I don't know. I never thought about teaching yoga." And she said, "Well, I'll pay you this amount of money, and you can have all the classes you want." And I said, "Oh, okay." And that was how it started. I had no control over any of this. I just
kind of fell into your lap.
I just fell into it.
Yeah.
Same thing like working in Hollywood. Did it. But anyway, so that was how it all happened.
I love it. I love it. This is what I mean. You're such an interesting guy.
Yeah.
There's so many, facets to you.
This is not, I mean,
You are.
There's a lot there.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
how many yogis that work in Hollywood? I mean, it's
Yeah.
and play the guitar in Shavasana. I mean, it's
Yeah,
rad.
I
It's
know.
cool. Yeah. Yeah. And you actually used to take my classes at Yoga Works because I
did.
taught a Sculpt Works class there, and he would take my classes. I
Yeah,
was
and-
always very honored when he would come in.
Yeah,
Really?
But I couldn't always get in. That class was packed.
Yeah.
All her classes are packed.
Well, but it was
Well,
really
back in
an
those
honor.
days, pre-COVID,
Yeah.
I had
Oh, his classes were nuts.
I had a Saturday morning class, and
Yeah.
Selena told me that if the fire department ever came, they would shut us down.
I'm sure. Yeah.
It was mat to friggin'
Right, yeah,
mat.
yeah.
And people loved it. They would
Yeah.
come 48 or 50 Saturdays out of the year. It was like
Yeah.
their church. It was,
Yeah.
and the energy was just.
It was very cool. And what I always loved about his classes is he would like say it as it, there was no candy coating, sugar coating, anything from David's mouth. Sometimes I'd be like, did he really just say that? It was so rad. Oh my God, I miss those
I
days.
was told I was polarizing too.
Definitely. I would say that's true. You loved him. I mean, not hated. No one's going to hate you,
No.
but I could see how someone
No,
would be
there were
like,
people.
"Whoa." Oh,
Well, hate's a strong word, but there were some people that definitely did not
Yeah.
like me. But you know what? The thing with the Yoga Works, if your room was full, they
Yeah.
didn't mess with you.
Of course
you were
not.
just a cash cow.
Yeah. Well, that's a thing for sure.
Just fun.
Brad's not a fan of the hot yoga, right?
It's hard for me.
I know. But you know what? His classes, what was it, like 85
Yeah,
maybe?
it wasn't hot.
80? It wasn't heated.
Yeah.
You got hot because you're breathing.
Yeah.
properly.
And they got 50
Yeah.
other bodies
Right.
in the room.
So that's
Yeah.
what made it hot. It was plenty hot.
Yeah. It takes me a long time to acclimate to the heat.
Yeah.
Well, the hot yoga, when I started teaching hot yoga at Bikram, it was a basic hot yoga flow, but then they decided that they wanted a vinyasa flow class, which caused a big rift with Bikram because he only wanted exclusivity,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so I
26 postures.
Yeah, so I volunteered to teach that vinyasa flow, and that was because there was only one other person there that knew vinyasa flow, and she was not willing to put herself out there like that, which comes back to the other thing. I definitely believe that you have to make yourself uncomfortable whenever you can, because I had never taught.
You mean in life?
In
Or
life.
in yoga?
In life and yoga. Because that's where growth and adaptation comes
I
from.
know.
Because I had never taught a vinyasa flow class,
Yeah.
and I hadn't even taken much vinyasa flow. I was an Ashtangi, right?
Right.
And so,
I think everybody kind of was in the beginning,
yeah,
right?
that's where
everybody was.
That's
Which is like you go in the same. Brad does not know this.
Yeah.
It's same order, same postures. It's gnarly.
well, essentially it's a yoga sandwich. The
Yoga sandwich.
the beginning of the Ashtanga series is the same, and the end's the same, but
Right.
it's the middle is series 1, series 2 that
Right.
changes. But and I think there's value in series, and I think there's value in the Bikram series for beginners, because by repeating the same posture every time you go and being in a hot room where your body's warm, you see improvement pretty quickly.
of course.
But so I forgot. I got sidetracked on something there.
About why you were teaching.
Oh yeah. So I started teaching, and it was very uncomfortable for me to jump in and do that. But that's why I think, jumping into freaking wing foiling was hard.
Yeah.
Jumping into flying airplanes was hard. Jumping into sailing boats across the ocean was hard. I mean, everything that you do, but I think curiosity is what it's all about.
Yeah.
I think that if you're curious about things and you dive down those rabbit holes, you just find the ones that you like, and you just let go of the ones that you don't.
I think it's hard to start new things because
Agree.
we live in this world of everyone's perfect, everything's so good, and to not be good at something is really hard for people.
Right. But we do expose our kid. If you're a good parents, if a kid shows an interest, you throw it.
Yeah,
You're always
100%.
throwing your kid a new thing to try and hope the one that sticks is great.
Yeah. How old is your daughter now?
25.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
just turned 25.
Okay, cool.
And she has exercised some of the things that I've taught her, and with good results too. Yeah, because I know I watch you guys talk about affirmation, visualization, all that kind of stuff. I'm a huge believer in that.
Yeah.
Not just as part of your meditation practice as well, but I've seen that work so many times. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Love that.
Okay, tell us all the things, David.
About which?
Meditation. That we talk about this. Well, first of all, I want to comment on what you said about being uncomfortable and jumping into something even when one is uncomfortable. My birthday is next week. I'm going to be 60, and I've said it's not as big of a deal for 60 as it was for 59 for some reason. 59 felt. Well, no. Why are you laughing at me?
Everyone gets rougher for me.
Yeah, well, absolutely. But 59, I think, was, okay, this is the last year you're in your 50s, yo.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, okay, 60, I had a whole year to prepare for it.
Right.
But just doing things that you're uncomfortable with, I still have a hard time with that. And I mean, Brad trains me as well, and he was trying to get me do some ish the other day that I'm like, what is going on, Brad? Do you not know how old I am? I'm 60 now, Brad. And I think he was trying to say I wasn't 60 yet, but it just, I think that's just human nature, that we kind of buck against doing things that are uncomfortable.
Well, I think that's right there in my book.
Oh,
Hand
do you
me
know
that
which
thing.
page that is by chance?
Yeah, this is I actually like.
I need to read it again because I think I read it as soon as it came out.
Yeah, which was a long time.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, so here it is. Call it an arena, call it a playground or a playing field. It doesn't matter. It's the environment of your experiences. Ever changing not only in terms of the day-to-day, but in terms of the era, age, and foundation of the society prevalent at the moment. The journeys, lessons, and challenges of those born in a hunter-gatherer society are far different from those born into an age of technology and atomic power. Yet, the fundamental drive, motivations, and fears remain constant throughout all of life, regardless of species, era, or society. Survival of the individual, perpetuation of the species, avoidance of pain, attraction to pleasure.
Yep. For
And
sure.
that's the four basic impulses that can easily mutate into obsession, addiction, depression, and loss, and a host of other behaviors. So that comes into, avoiding discomfort as part of that pursuit of pleasure and avoidance of pain.
For sure.
And this comes back to, can you as a soul dominate the whims of the mind and the body? And that's where the yoga meditation comes in. It strengthens your awareness. It's self-realization. It's when you realize what you are and the limitless of your possibilities, it makes it easier to confront discomfort and a lack of it, in your attachments and all that sort of thing.
How much time do you spend meditating a day?
Well, it's varied a lot throughout the years. I'm at about, 15, 20 minutes in the morning now.
Okay.
It's been times when I've been 40 minutes twice a day.
Wow.
There was times when I've gone down to an ashram, Self-Realization Fellowship ashram. It's in Escondido. It's a men's-only ashram, and basically it preps the novices, they're the guys that want to become swamis. And they do at least 2 to 3 hours.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. And then every Sunday they have a 6-hour meditation.
Holy cow.
And you don't have to stay for the whole thing. Right? but a lot of those guys, they'll do 3 for sure.
Wow.
Yeah, no,
It's nutty.
it is. It's crazy.
So about 15 minutes a day is what you're at right now.
I think the best to do is to do 15 or so and do it twice a day if you can, morning and night. Or do 10 minutes. Do 10 minutes.
How do you start? I have started and stopped so many times with the silly little apps.
Yeah. Well, I have a specific, I do the methods that are prescribed by Self-Realization Fellowship because I took them in the lessons, and they have a couple different ones. But the thing what you have to realize is that when you're talking about meditation, I'm doing a yoga meditation. And there are probably a zillion influencer-based this, that, and the other meditations out there. To me, the concept of mindful meditation doesn't make any sense. I'm trying to get out of my mind.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to settle into my mind. So if basically the parameters are all laid out by Patanjali's 8 limbs. You got yama niyama, which is behavior, proscriptive and prescriptive. That's like your 10 commandments, your precepts of Buddhism, whatever. Because without good behavior, you're constantly creating ongoing bad karma that's going to foil your attempts to further yourself, right? Okay. Then you have asana. Asana, according to Patanjali, has nothing to do with yoga postures. It's correct alignment, seat and alignment of the spine for when you sit to meditate. The reason that's important is because the life force, the prana that keeps all of us going, enters through the back of the head, the medulla oblongata, goes down through your spine, through the chakras and all that. If you've got funky posture, it's like a hose. It gets a crimp in it, or you got a hole in it where the energy falls out. So asana, according to Patanjali, is correct alignment, correct posture for meditating. Then you go into pranayama. Pranayama to Patanjali isn't alternate nostril breathing. It's life force control. And usually pranayama breathing techniques are designed to get you to understand the prana flow in your body. This is what I was talking about when I do a yoga practice now. I'm manipulating my prana internally rather than my muscles when I go into a posture.
Yeah.
So pranayama, then pratyaharas. Once you figure out how that pranayama moves, you withdraw it from your extremities, from your senses, and you bring it back into your spine and brain. Okay? Dharana, once you get to that point, then you start exercising concentration. That means you bring your focus, you've gotten rid of all this distraction of the senses, and you're bringing it into one point. Dhyana is when you focus that concentration onto, you can call it spirit, you can call it the quantum field, you can call it God, you can call it goddess, you can call it whatever you want.
Right.
It's whatever is existing and sustaining this creation, whatever that word is for you. And if you're an atheist, then you don't get to go there, I guess.
Yeah.
But that being said, the next stage after that is samadhi. Once you've directed that connection, then you merge. And then that's where we're talking about the little wave attaches itself to its awareness to the ocean. So that's yoga meditation. It's different from biofeedback. It's different from, whatever, I don't know what people do.
We've talked about, a lot of what we talk about in here is helping people live better longer.
Right.
A big part of that, like you said, there's a lot of suffering right, that we bring upon ourselves. And we've talked about ways to calm ourselves down because we live in such a high stress.
Stress is the worst.
Right. And that's what we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
So what would you tell someone that's just beginning a meditation practice because they want to, maybe not necessarily, they're not where you're at,
I get you.
But they want to begin a meditation practice to help calm them down.
Yeah.
And I'm all ears too, because I have, like I said, started and stopped so many times.
Well, the thing is, what you have to understand too is that meditation, stress is, I'm talking here, you can do all the diet, you can do all the workouts. If you're stressed, you're screwed.
Right.
It's just the way it is. But
thank you for supporting that.
no, you guys, I'm preaching the choir here with you guys.
Yeah.
I might just be giving you a little bit of different information you didn't have before. But that being said, the heart yoga, meditation is such a subtle and nebulous thing, and we're so used to instant.
Yes,
that's the problem.
Right.
That when we sit to meditate, we go, "Oh, this is boring. This doesn't work."
I'm thinking too much.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the best thing I would say for somebody that wants to sit down and try, first of all, if your diet's screwed up, you're going to have problems. You're going to be restless. Your body's going to be agitated, right? Just through sugar or whatever it is. I don't know, bad gut health, anything. So that's kind of a problem. That's where not just the asana, but the hatha yoga, the physical part of yoga, is designed to make your body receptive to sitting for long periods of time and being able to go into deep meditation.
Right.
So, and I'm assuming you guys have good diets. You don't need to worry about that.
Well, his is okay. He likes circus animals.
So anyway, so when you sit to meditate, the first thing you want to do is do some deep breathing. Just count. Don't and the idea is not to say, well, I'm going to do 20 count deep breaths today. You know,
right.
the idea is just to find the rhythm that works for you, where you're not losing your breath. And so maybe do 10 rounds of just nice. And remember, every good breath starts with a good exhale. Without a good exhale, you're never going to get a good inhale because you haven't created the vacuum for that. Okay, so you do that, and then you feel your breath, and you can feel that in your throat from going through your nose. You can feel it in your chest. Any way that you can perceive your breath, you just do that and watch it. And thoughts come, and you just acknowledge the thought, and you go back to the breath. And if you can just do that, that's a lot.
Yes.
That's a lot. And just do it for 10 minutes. Put your little timer.
I was going to start with 5.
Okay, start with 5. I would say 3 is a little too short.
Sure.
Yeah, start with 5, and then work your way up. Add 15 seconds a day or whatever.
Okay.
And then if you want to,
So you don't start a timer or anything. You just go. You're just.
Yeah, I don't. Unless I have to be done at a certain time to go do something, then I'll set it on my phone. But yeah,
I started to say you're freeballing it.
No, but yeah, but just it's easier for me because I have specific techniques.
Sure.
So that's another thing that you want to work on. While you're doing this, research a technique, like a mantra, inhale this, exhale that.
I used to do this too,
I don't think that matters.
No. Meaning just to focus. I'm touching my face, just to kind of focus to get away from thinking about what I have to do later in the day, kind of thing.
Yeah. But
because you talked about that, right, Brad? When you went to how difficult it was when you were trying to do it.
Oh yeah, the first time I went to meditate, I thought I had a misunderstanding of what it was. I thought the idea of meditation was to sit in silence, breathe, and think about nothing. And my brain went crazy.
You can't do a negative think about nothing.
Yeah, it didn't work.
You have to do focus on the breath.
Yeah.
Watch your breath. And it's the same thing that I've come across, and this is a different subject with habits. Yogananda says the way to get rid of a bad habit is to replace it with a good habit. Because if you just try and take away that habit, now your body's going, I want something. So it's the same thing with that. You don't say don't think. You say put your focus onto your breath.
Right.
And then you might, research and come up with a little mantra where you inhale with one sound. A lot of these mantras are based in Sanskrit sounds, which is the root language of all the Indo-European languages, and they have a resonance. They have a vibrational quality that's supposed to help. So you might inhale to one and exhale to another. That might become a thing that you do. As a self-realization fellowship, their end goal is Kriya Yoga. And that's a whole pranayama that you can do. So I can burn a lot of time doing kriyas. So that's
Just to get started.
Yeah, start with 5 minutes. Yeah. And like I said, make intentional breaths. Do intentional breaths for 5 or 10 rounds, and then let your breath go normal. Make sure that your posture is good, and then just watch your breath.
So you shouldn't be lying down.
No, the problem with lying
you
down.
fall asleep.
Well, and also, your yoga people will tell you to turn your eyes up. And the theory is that this is the third eye. The third eye doesn't perceive from out here. The third eye is a reflection of what you're getting from where the life force enters your body. That's not really important. But one thing that does is it keeps you from nodding off. You let your eyes go down, and then the head goes down.
Yeah, for sure.
So turning your eyes up it's funny because in the descriptions of meditation and the old school yoga stuff, they talk about the point of the nose. So a lot of people thought that meant looking cross-eyed, but this is a point of the nose too, right?
Right. Oh, yeah.
So anyway, so I would let gently. It's not like you're cranking to look up there. Just let the eyes gently turn up, and then you never know what you might have some crazy cool perception by doing that, because that's where like the advanced people.
You get stoned before you meditate.
No,
I'm just kidding.
I don't have a problem with getting stoned, but. No, the problem, and that's a whole other thing. A lot of drugs or whatever will give you a similar effect, but I always say they're taking you out the bottom, whereas true clarity of mind takes you out the top. Like, I got a good one for you. Yeah. I told this story at work, and these people, they thought I was friggin' nuts. They were talking about drug experiences. And I was.
Is this when you're working on people's hair and makeup?
No, we were sitting around with all my fellow people, and we were talking. And these were all mostly women between 35 and 50, I'd say, interestingly enough. And so I said, yeah, I was in Taiwan and I had my appendix taken out because I had
Is that true?
It's absolutely true.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but it turned out that
You didn't go there to have your appendix taken out.
I was there. I was there doing some work, and
sheesh.
and I had my appendix out, and the doctor spoke perfect English. He had done post stuff at SC. I mean, he was great. So at the end of the thing, I'm laying in bed, and they said, they don't want to give you pain medication if you don't need it. And I said, I need it. I mean, I've just been freaking cut here.
Yeah.
So you got the IV, and and I am sure this was just the best morphine you could ever get. She put that in there, and I freaking left my body.
Wow.
I went straight up, and I had a 360-degree perspective view of the room. And I've heard about when people die, they say they leave their body. And that's exactly what happened.
Really?
Yes.
But
now
it wasn't your time.
No. Well, that's what I call leaving your body out the bottom, because it was the drug that got me there.
Got it.
Now, when I was younger, I was about 18, and I was as pure as the driven snow at that time. I mean,
don't believe it.
Well, I wasn't doing any alcohol or drugs.
Okay.
I was smoking weed.
Okay.
And I mean, I smoked weed when I was young, obviously, but and I was laying in bed one night, and I had the same experience. I just had this really weird feeling. I mean, I felt so relaxed, and it was the weirdest thing. And then I went
really,
to bed. Yeah, and so that's what I call leaving your
Out the
body
top.
out the top.
Got it.
So yeah, there you have it. I don't even know if this is good. You might want to edit some of this stuff out of here.
No, you are about, longevity, David.
Yes.
And wellness.
Yes.
And that's why he agreed to be on here, because he's listened to some of our clips, right?
Yeah. No. I think that your whole idea about your comeback is. I think life is one freaking comeback after another.
That's what we say all the time.
Yeah. No, I know. That's why I'm all in on your guys' deal.
Yeah,
with
I
that.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, but everyone thinks that life is all about not suffering at all, and so they're trying to live this level like there's no suffering,
Right.
everything's
Right.
perfect.
No.
They paint the picture on social media.
Oh, yeah.
Like no one's everything's great, and so people are almost afraid to talk about it or to acknowledge that they're in a struggle state or suffering.
Yeah.
But there's so much beauty within the suffering.
Well, the thing is that that's another thing that I talk about in the book. This creation relies on duality for its existence. You cannot, it's yin and yang, right?
Yeah.
You cannot have good without bad,
Right.
Faith without despair, all those. They are part and parcel of the same thing.
Yes.
So all you can do is mitigate the extremes. And that's what the middle path of Buddhism is all about. Sure, everybody wants. You see people that they're all, that they're going to hit the bottom 3 hours later, right? It's just the nature of life.
Yeah.
But the one that's, this is really cool. It's kind of a bummer. That's where you want to stay.
Yeah.
But the problem is that people, the astral body, as you've probably heard about, the way it works in yoga is the soul is encased in the causal body. That's the idea of individuality. The astral body is the energetic body, and the physical body's over that. The astral body gets addicted to those big swings, those big emotional swings.
The dopamine hits.
It is. Dopamine hits. You got it. And social media is the worst for that
We've
stuff.
talked about that so many times.
Yeah. So if you look at it that way and go, oh, my astral body's freaking pushing me around. If you understand that it's your energetic body is sucking up those extremes because it finds it comfortable.
Right.
But this doesn't manifest so comfortable in your physical body because it creates stress.
Right.
So that's an interesting concept right there.
The whole stress thing.
Yeah.
Such a bummer.
Yeah, it is. And it seems like everything that...
It's worse now.
It is way. It seems like all these things that we've done to make it less has just made it worse. And I'm sure you guys talk about that all the time.
Well, I've also noticed this. Myself personally, is I'll get into those good flow states where I don't have the highs and lows. I'm kind of more like you're talking about, like just kind of bounce around a little.
Yeah.
And originally it's, this is really boring.
Yeah, exactly. That's the astral body going, I want some action, dude.
Yeah. And it takes a while to break out of those extremes and get comfortable to where now my extremes are much less. And it's much easier.
It's less stressful.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. Whether you like those... you could like those all you want, but you're going to pay the price with stress. That's the bottom.
Yeah.
Well, I think anytime we run into somebody that runs on that high and that big swing, that's kind of a rut row.
Oh, shit.
They're attractive, very often.
Yes, they are.
Crazy could be attractive in the beginning.
But yeah, trying to stay in the middle is definitely a better spot.
Well, this is where it comes back to when you experience, if you get to that point in your journey where you can experience the reality of your connection to spirit, it is such a the bliss of that freedom is so far beyond any emotional swing that you're going to feel in this lifetime. And that's the sale, but it's hard freaking work.
Yeah.
If it wasn't, there'd be enlightened masters walking around all over the place, you know? It's just, it's a hard path. And that's why I call it a battlefield.
Love that.
Yeah.
Basically, the Bible of Hinduism is the Bhagavad Gita. And the whole story takes place on the battlefield. And it all starts with the blind king asking his advisor, how did it go today? And that is the analogy for the human self-introspecting and asking, how did I do today? Was I kind when I should have been? Was I impatient? Was I reactive? Self-analysis is huge in the spiritual path, no matter what it is. And the battle is with the things that get thrown at you and how you respond to them and how you look at them. And in this book, that's why the cancer aspect of it, the book isn't really even about cancer. It's about the art of war, know your enemy. So the cancer is an example of how much research I had to do to know my enemy.
Right.
And I also did that because everybody in life has dealt with cancer, either with themselves or with somebody they know or with their parent or whatever. And so I thought that'll give them some ideas of what they might need to deal with.
Right.
But the basic premise of the book is that life is a battlefield. You got to know your
Pat
enemy.
Benatar.
Yeah, you got exactly. And you have to know your enemy. And the more knowledge is power. The more you know your enemy, the more you're going to know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Did you? I don't know if you've listened to our podcast with Gary Heyer that was on. I'll have to send it to you. But he was at 41, 2. I'm going to get it wrong.
Something like that.
Was diagnosed with stage 4 colorectal cancer.
Right. You told me about that.
Okay, and 7 years later, here he is,
Yeah.
thriving. So he really jumped in, exactly what you're saying, knowing his enemy and what can I do to fight against this.
The problem is that and I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but I'll just put it out here that our medical system is really messed up when it comes to any of this stuff. It's too bad.
Right.
Because I've been to clinic. I went to a clinic in Germany and all that for 3 weeks.
Did not know that.
Their way, Germany, Italy, Israel, they're on it. They're working on all the cool stuff.
Different, huh?
Yeah, and they have.
Well, our healthcare system here is kind of messed up anyway.
My orthopedic surgeon told me straight up, it's broken.
Yeah, definitely. Look at how many sick individuals we have in this
right, and
country.
part of that is that they don't promote anything. Your insurance won't cover anything that keeps you from getting sick.
Right.
They'll only give you stuff once you're already sick.
Yeah.
And the costs involved are crazy.
Insane.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, I've heard, I'll throw this out there. I've heard that cancer is one of our largest economies in America.
That's right.
That if they actually found a cure for cancer, it would wipe out our country because it is such a large economical driven.
Here's the story, and I'll tell you exactly. I've said this to a lot of people. If they came up with a 3 series injection that you got that would cure any cancer, whatever it is, you would put oncologists out of business, radiologists out of business, the companies that make the radiation machines, the drugs that make you feel better when you're going under chemo, the chemotherapy drugs. Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
It would be devastating to the economy.
Yeah.
So unless they can come up with something more effective that generates the same income, it is never going to happen.
Yeah.
It
sadly.
just isn't.
Yeah.
And the costs, I have a friend, and there's a drug called LU-177 that's a prostate cancer drug. And you have to be at the end of the rope. And that's another thing. I was looking, clinical trials for any kind of cancer are not finding new cures for first diagnosis because that cash cow is already in place.
Yeah.
You're going to get the hormone therapy. You're going to get this. You're going to get that. We're going to get you for $200,000. And then when everything else has failed, that's where all the clinical trials are happening, because now they can find a way to keep you alive longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this one LU-177, when he goes and gets a dose of it up at the Mayo Clinic, it runs. I think his insurance gets billed $250,000 or $270,000 or something like that. He said in Germany, one dose, out of pocket, $17,000.
Jeez.
Really?
That's what he told me. And he said it's better. It's
Wow,
better,
wow.
LU-177. So
Wow,
yeah.
crazy.
But anyway, I didn't. You can edit this part out. I don't,
No,
I'm not trying to attack allopathic medicine,
Yeah.
because I love my orthopedic surgeons.
Yes,
They're my
yes.
favorite.
Yeah.
Well, I have a lot of friends that are great doctors. I love them, but they struggle with it. They know they struggle with what they're stuck doing and how they're stuck doing it, and it wasn't what they originally signed up
No,
for.
for sure. And
So-
they trained in places that were funded by pharmaceutical company grants.
Yeah.
So all they were taught was to diagnose and prescribe.
Yeah.
And which is just so sad. And alternative stuff. If you go over in Germany, they'll use ozone blood therapy. They'll do mistletoe. They'll do
Mistletoe.
mistletoe IVs, vitamin C IVs. I mean, all that stuff that's
Yeah.
considered alternative and weird here, they totally embrace.
Yeah.
So it's a problem, and it's hard. I mean, if you have a whole lot of money, you could probably deal with cancer pretty well, but you'd have to go out of the country and pay out of pocket.
Yeah. You're not the first person I've heard that from.
Yeah. Well, good.
So-
I'm glad I'm not alone.
Yeah. No, I've seen it firsthand. I've had a lot of clients go through it, and the ones that were financially well off tend to have a lot more options.
Yeah,
And it was
yeah.
not here in the United States. They
Sure.
went to other places. and-
Yeah. No, Germany's great. Like I say, Israel has a lot of research, a lot of good research, cancer research going on.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't know. So I'm at the point now where if I ever got it again, I would just let it go and die. Because when you get locked into that, it's all the trips to the doctor,
Yeah.
all the trips to the MRI, all the
Sure.
trips to the scan, and it just wears you down.
Yeah.
You just feel like I'm just a cash cow for them.
Well, and I had one, a client of mine, very famous woman, went through breast cancer, and she went into remission. And she actually said the hardest point of the whole process was the day she went into remission, was told she was in remission. And when she left the hospital, all her support staff went away.
Yeah.
Like all these people that were there for her, that were taking care of her, gone. She
Yeah.
goes, that's when she got scared, because she didn't have the support. It was just gone. Like,
Yeah.
she was in remission. There
They're
was
like,
nothing
"Bye."
she needed.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
No,
said that
it's
was a super hard point for her.
Yeah.
I mean, I did some time up there at City of Hope, and when you go there, they treat you so good. Oh, Mr. Danon, how are you doing? It's always the same people. They know your name. That's all part of the deal to make you feel comfortable where you are, and that's great. I'd rather have that than a gnarly clinical environment that sucks. But yeah, it's just a sad thing. And the other thing is it's sad is that there's so many more things causing it. The pollution, the food, all that kind of stuff.
Yes. Stress.
Stress, for sure.
We're just going to entitle this episode "Stress."
Well, no, because you guys are absolutely right. Without addressing stress, there is no other way.
Right.
And
All the other stuff doesn't matter.
yeah, I mean, and if it's talk therapy, great. If it's getting on the treadmill for 40 minutes, great.
Yeah.
I'm not saying meditation is the only way.
Right.
But we aren't. One size doesn't fit all. It just doesn't. And everybody my daughter has a pretty high stress job. She's on that treadmill 6-7 days a week doing 5 or 7 miles. She just
wow.
cranks it out. And I'm sure that's part of what helps her deal with it. But it's stress. Stress is a big problem for sure.
My last question for you, and we're running out of time here, and this is more personal question.
Did you want me to leave the room?
No, you can stay.
Okay.
I just don't want to hear about it in a training session. No, I'm just kidding. I want to go back to the attachment part.
Right.
I struggle with that, and I'll just be open. I'm just like I struggle with that, and so I'd love any recommendation you have for myself, for other people listening, because I see the value of when you can separate from the attachment, like the expectations, the stuff. Any simple, like some place to start on a practice to help start creating the separation from that, from those things that we are attached to.
Yeah. The thing is, my mantra in life is hope for the best, prepare for the worst, and be at peace with what you get. And that kind of helps. But as far as the attachment thing goes, you have to look at your actions or your expectations as I'm not doing this to get that. I'm not putting this on this person to get that back. I'm just putting this out there as I'm an actor in a play. You know what I mean? I'm playing a role in this creation. I love that one. We're not material beings looking for a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings looking for a material experience. So we're living in this realm, and if I just perform my actions without any expectation or any, I'm just doing it to satisfy the director. You know, I got Quentin Tarantino there. I'm giving him my best version of this.
Yeah.
And if it comes out great. If it ends up on the cutting room floor, then that's okay too. It's non-attachment to the fruits of your actions. That's the way Krishna puts it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if you
being okay with it either way.
Yeah, you can put that expectation or that anticipation, but just know, hey, I'm putting this out here. That's my role. That's what I'm doing. But the outcome is not mine to determine. It's in the script.
Yeah.
That's the way. That's the way I would look at it.
Totally.
I like that a lot. Thank you.
I love that.
Well, good. I hope it helps you.
Yes.
And then the last page of the book will tell you all that same stuff. I'm going to leave you guys with this because in case we don't meet again in this lifetime.
What? Yes, we are.
The thing that I would advise anybody, and I've advised all my yoga students that I've taught for the last 27 years, there's the key to this all in the most simplest terms. If you want to say, how am I going to do this? Constant vigilance and constant resolve. Simple. The vigilance is the introspection. How am I doing? What can I improve? What did I do good? Give yourself a pat on the back for that. And the resolve is to stay on the path, because you will be lured out of this by your astral body and material creation. It'll constantly be trying to pull you away from going in that right direction. And that's where the vigilance comes in. That's where the resolve comes in. The vigilance says, here I go. Yeah. Resolve, get back on the frickin' path.
Love it.
And all it takes is, and the weirdest thing is the same thing with your fitness. You get a flu that lasts for 3 weeks, and your habit can be completely gone, right? It can be so hard to get back into it. And it's the same thing with your mental and spiritual resolve to keep stress out of your life.
Yeah.
And do all that sort of stuff. So there you go, guys. Vigilance and resolve.
Amazing.
Love it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.
Really appreciate it. That was great.
Love it. The book, Life, Yoga, and Cancer, Lessons from the Battlefield by David Danon.
Available on Amazon.
Love it. Let's give more money to Jeff Bezos.
Well, it's funny because also my focus now is healthy aging and longevity.
Amen. Amen. Us too. Well, thank you so much.
I haven't read the book yet, but by the sounds of it, the stuff you talk about from years ago is all the stuff like the gut health and all those things are being like kind of highlighted now. You were focused on years ago.
Love it.
So I love that.
It's all part of the research. It was all part of the research.
Cool. Perfect. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome, guys. Thank you.
You're welcome.